Welcome to episode 133 of the Thunder Underground podcast. My name's Trent. This is Jason. And this week, we've got another fine guest because we've got Doc Coyle.
That's right. God forbid, if any of you guys were ever familiar with the whole new wave of American heavy metal in the early and mid 2000s, you're gonna know God forbid. And Doc Coyle was in the middle of it. On top of that, he's got a million crazy, awesome things going on. So, we had to snag him for the podcast. It was awesome.
Yeah, we're going to get into that with him, talk a little more about his stuff here in a minute. But first, we're going to play some music and going to mention Rammstein.
That's right.
I went to the Rammstein show in Dallas this past Thursday.
Yeah.
Right at the end of June, and it was spectacular.
I'm sure it was.
I don't know what else to really say than that, because, I've talked about before how if anyone ever asks me what's the best show you ever seen, I usually say that. And, there's different ways to gauge what's the best thing you've ever seen,
Yeah.
And them and Iron Maiden's, pretty much even. Iron Maiden obviously is going to win song-wise, but Rammstein's going to beat everybody stage-wise. And the thing about both those two bands is the stage production and the music is so high level that it makes it a complete experience. It's not like seeing Motley Crue or something where the music drags it down.
Yeah.
The stage show.
They've got to up the show because their
right.
singer sucks balls, right. So they got to make up for that.
Or like Rob Zombie a long time ago.
Yes,
Rob Zombie's good now, but
yeah,
there was a time where his performance was a little lacking, but
yes, it was.
I've always loved him, so I'm not saying anything negative. But anyway.
Well, as opposed to the last time you saw him.
It's
comparing neck and neck, or what do you think?
Yeah, I actually kind of like the last one maybe a little bit better.
Okay.
The stage show maybe was a little cooler. This one was more, it's the thing they were doing this past year. I saw the videos from Chicago Open Air and a couple European things they did, and it was still that same stage show where it's all industrialized looking, and there's fire almost at all times. Not at all times, but every single song has mass amounts of fire and all kinds of stuff going on. But it seemed like that time I saw them, I think it was 2012 when they did the short arena tour in America. Seemed like it had more stuff going on, a little more diversity. Mm-hmm. But they could do more, too, because they had the arena. They used the whole arena. They came down through the crowd, had a bridge that went over.
Which is awesome.
The whole, middle of the crowd and all this crazy
great.
shit.
Yeah, sorry, I love that idea.
Yeah.
And those pictures from that was awesome. Well, here's my thing is, everybody that went to that show, all the stuff on Facebook, they always just show the singer with the wings and the flame. Okay, yes, we've seen a million pictures of that. That's cool. Was there anything else, that stood out?
No. And he's been doing that a while, too.
Okay.
He did that the last time I saw him.
Okay.
But the last time he's just standing on the stage doing it. This time it raises up and he is pulled up by cables, I guess.
I see.
But there was a point, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember which song it was, but he, there's a couple times he brought out this bow and arrow looking thing. And one time he just spun it around and fire's flying off it. But then another time, towards the end of the song, he shot the bow, which I think it was just, it looked like he shot it, but then sparks and fire flew across the whole top of the crowd.
Wow.
And went out behind, clear to the back. We've been to the Starplex.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those amphitheaters where the whole seating area is covered by a covering, and then the lawn area is open. This fire went through the whole covering and then, snapped and stuff, and then flew back at the stage and then exploded on the stage. But you weren't really paying attention beforehand, but after that happened, you look up, you see there's a couple cables going across there.
So there you go, yeah.
So that's how they pulled that off.
Yeah.
But it's still, you have to really look for it. So it's really well done, just like everything else they did.
Yeah.
He had the thing on with some kind of weird fat suit, and then he pulled it off, and it has all these canisters around him where it looks kind of like, when you see a guy in a movie that straps the bombs around him. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the song, it all just starts exploding, just right there on him. It's just like, it looks, I don't know how they do it. If obviously he has on fireproof stuff, or it's not really fire, but it was actually snapping and exploding, and
Jesus Christ.
Each one did it, and then at the end it just blew. It looked like the whole thing blew up. You just see a flash of fire, and then it goes black, and he disappears for a minute. And
you imagine how hot that motherfucker must be on every show?
Well, all of them, because that's another thing I wanted to talk about.
They probably lose like 40 pounds every night. I need to fucking be on that tour.
Yeah, that's why they all look like, they could all fight. 6 of them could beat your ass.
Yeah, no shit.
Even the little, skinny keyboardists could kick our ass probably. But like, like I was in the 10th row behind the pit. Mm-hmm. So that's probably equivalent like 15th row. Yeah. I don't know, because the pit there was not that big. And by the third song, there was sweat running down my head.
Really?
Yeah, and down my face.
Jeez.
I kept wiping it off, and that lasted the whole time. Like it wasn't that bad. Like earlier in the night Hell Yeah played, and they had a good crowd in there, but it wasn't completely packed full. A lot of people were hanging out outside. And then once Rammstein was getting ready to go on, the place like completely filled up, and it got a little bit more hot because of people, but there was a nice cool night. But yeah, as soon as they started like that, just the constant fire just never let up. So you're just like hotter than shit, but it's so good you don't think about it.
Yeah. Well, what about, the one thing we probably need to mention, the music.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it on your end? I mean, was it a set that you enjoyed, or, I mean, you're the big Rammstein fan. I'm not really. So, talk about that angle a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they played, they're one of those bands like Iron Maiden. When they tour on a new album, they'll make it heavy on that album.
Yeah.
But they haven't done that in a while because they haven't released a new album in quite a while.
I see.
But so both times I've seen them, it's been kind of like a hit set, if you want to call it hits for them. Obviously in America, they only really had one hit, but they have all the songs that people know and love, like Angle, and I guess that's how you say that, Angel in German, and then Kind Lust and Itchville and all that great stuff. And then, they played pretty much everything I like. Mind Tell's probably one of my favorite songs. They didn't play it, but they played it last time I saw them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a good set. If you've never seen Rammstein, and you're seeing them this time around, you're going to love what you see.
Nice.
Basically.
Nice.
And I think I was going to point out something. Oh, yeah, they played Stripped, the Depeche Mode song.
Okay.
But they had recorded this. I was just kind of surprised when I saw it on the set list before that. It came out a few years ago. They released one of those rare tracks, 96 to 2012 or something like that. And it was on there, and it's, one of the only songs that he sings in English. And they played that, and that's how the show ended before the encore. But yeah, other than that, it was all pretty much exactly what you expect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I'm going to have to get on the YouTubes.
Yeah.
Check some more stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's cool. Like, part of the show is always there's always something with the singer and the keyboardist, like he treats him like he's not important,
Yep.
Even though he is, because that's a third of their sound, But yeah, there was one of the other things they did that was kind of cool was he came down and, when he had the, whatever you call it, the ball gag thing on, and, back when I saw him in 2012, he had on like a gimp suit, at one point, but this time he just had the ball gag, and he drags him down and throws him into this huge steel container. It looks like a trough or something. And then, just like throws him in there, and then, just starts motioning the crowd or something. Then he crawls up on this thing, and it lifts him up on one of the risers the guitarist came down on. And he gets like probably 15, 20 feet above it, in the air. And then he has this big bucket, and then like drops something in it to set it on fire, and then just flips it over, and all this like fire and sparks and flames start coming out and going into the bucket, and it starts flashing and exploding. And then he's like laughing, and then he goes and looks, and like, oh, he's gone. Too bad, and then walks off. And then like it all starts flashing again, and then it explodes into like sparks and glitter and shit. And then
Good Lord.
The keyboardist steps out with a suit on that's all glitter. So he just like, it turned him to whatever. And he gets up there and does his thing. And even at the end of the show, when they all come up, you know, when they end their shows, they walk up to the front.
Yeah.
And the 5 of them just stand there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll bow. The first time they did that before the encore.
Yeah.
You know, he's like kind of standing by the keyboard and like looking like, should I go? And then like steps back and doesn't go. Like, so he just plays it up the whole time. Like, I'm not supposed to be down there. I'm not cool enough. I don't know.
That's crazy. Cause I remember the Family Values home video.
Yeah.
Where he took the guy and like unzipped the back of his pants cause the ass of his pants had a zipper.
Yeah.
So he unzipped it and he pulled out this big fake cock and started coming all over him and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus.
I saw that show too. Yeah.
Goddamn Germans, man.
What do you do?
What do you do? That's just way over my head.
I saw Josh from Fist of Rage there, and that's the type of thing that he loves.
He's all about that. And we know that.
Right.
And that's not even an insult. He's probably listening to this right now, loving it.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. But I didn't comment on Hell Yeah. We've talked before. I try every time I try to get into it, but it just
same here.
They sounded great. Chad Gray's great at getting the crowd into it. He's a good front man, but there's just something about the music that just never pulls me in as much as it should.
I have literally every album they ever put out, I give it a spin.
Yeah.
I give it a chance, and it doesn't suck. I just can't get into it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry.
how I've always been. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I saw a video, I think it was the next day that, I don't remember if it was Hell Yeah or Vinnie Paul posted. I don't think Vinnie Paul doesn't have a Facebook, does he? I think so. It's probably Hell Yeah. But it was backstage after the show, and it was Till Lindemann from Rammstein with Vinnie Paul and a couple other guys from Hell Yeah.
Nice.
Doing shots.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There you go.
But he had brought him I think it was French tequila or something. And
French tequila.
yeah, I think
son of a bitch.
I think he said it was from France or something's what I heard him say.
Nice. Okay. Okay. That exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, man, good. That's awesome. Glad you had a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. So see, I've told you, I'll tell anybody else, see him, even if you're not a fan of the music or you're just kind of like, it's still worth going to check
Gotta
out.
see him once.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do we need to play some music?
I think so. I think it's time.
Yeah. We're going to play Ironaut. It's a band out of California that we played before, and we've actually had Eric from Ironaut on this show.
Yes.
Episode 92. And that's a good one. He talks about all this band and all his other bands and stuff he's been a part of. When the Sun Is Gone, brand new music from Ironaut from their brand new EP, 6 Stupid Lies. They've got some previous music as well that we've talked about. Like I said, we had him on episode 92. This band, all 3 of these songs are great.
Yes.
And this band continually has put out great stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I know you are.
Yeah, I mean, chunky, riffy, fucking, organic, raw rock and roll. I mean, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And 6 Stupid Lies, it's great. This When the Sun Is Gone, it's a badass song. They've got a song on there called World of Shit, which is, I don't know how they knew, but it's about, my marriage. The past, 7 years.
Your ex-marriage.
Ex-marriage, yeah. I mean, it's done and over with. Thank the fuck Christ. But they knew about all that. But all joking aside, these guys rule. Go back and listen to the episode where we had Eric on. I mean, we can't champion these guys enough.
Yeah, that's available on their Bandcamp. Just search Ironaut. That's Ironaut. Look them up on Bandcamp. You can buy that thing for $3. I saw a thing where it said you could buy their back catalog discography for $5.
Yeah.
It's an amazing deal.
$5. I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Do it.
Especially when it's great music.
That's right. Support it.
Yeah. And like you said, Eric was on here episode 92. He was also in Gypsy Hawk. He talks about all that stuff. So get back there, check that out. Well, something else you need to check out. Doc Coyle.
Yes.
Vegas Nerve. And Bad Wolves.
Bad Wolves.
These are the 2 current things he's got going on musically. Like you mentioned at the beginning of this, he's always got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
He's also got a podcast that he does now, which is great.
The X-Man podcast.
Yeah.
Check it out.
And it's a cool idea, cool concept where he pretty much just interviews guys that are ex-members of bands.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people out there like that, so it's not hard to find.
Yeah,
but
it's
like
just a lot of his friends and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, because technically, you know, he is, even though it's not like, God forbid, went on without him, but he's an ex-member of a band because they're not together.
Yep.
So that's a cool idea, and I've listened to several of them and love what I've heard.
Yes, definitely. He's written songs for Bodycount. I mean, he's written for VH1.com. I mean, this guy's done everything. So, you know, the insight and the stories are invaluable. Yeah. So it was a great conversation.
Yeah, get on YouTube, Spotify, their Facebooks, all that stuff to check out Vegas Nerve and Bad Wolves.
Yes.
Both are great. You know, they have a little bit different sound between the two. Vegas Nerve has a little more of a straight ahead rock feel than what you'd be used to if you know him from God Forbid.
Yeah.
And Bad Wolves is more metal. And Bad Wolves, of course, features Tommy Vext, who's filling in on Five Finger Death Punch right now.
That's right.
So, I mean, the Bad Wolves name is out there, and like he talks about coming up in this interview, you know, he said it feels like something's, what's the right word, swelling up, you know, like this thing's getting ready to hit. So be on the lookout. Bad Wolves should be blowing up. That's my guess, too, because they're a good band.
Definitely. And, you know, also, you know, we can't not mention God Forbid. You know, you guys need to go check them out. If you love Killswitch Engage, Shadows Fall, Lamb of God, go check out God Forbid. I remember we went to see them. We went to see, I think, Ozfest 2004 in Kansas City. They were a standout for me, you know. Doc got to fill in for Mark Morton, in Lamb of God on, the Metallica tour 7-8 years ago. Saw him on that. So, I mean,
you saw him twice on that, right?
I saw him twice because we went to see we went to see them in Oklahoma City, just their headlining show. And then the next night they were in Dallas opening for Metallica. And I mean, that was awesome. And remember we went to see, were they at the Chameleon Room?
Yeah, that wasn't that long. I mean, well, it's long ago now, but I mean.
With like Shadows Fall, I think, right?
4 or 5 years. I think that was 2 different shows.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Well, maybe you're right. Well.
I know we met him at that show. I got a picture with him.
Yeah. But
in any case, I mean, just, you know, the breadth of this guy and what he's doing, it just spans everywhere. So really, you know, get into whatever he's got going on. You won't be sorry.
Definitely. So let's just get into this. Here's Doc Coyle.
You know, it's been a crazy couple days, man. There was a fire in the apartment upstairs, and then their sprinklers leaked. And so, luckily, none of our stuff got screwed up or messed up. But we're moving to another apartment in the building, so it's just like, usually when you move, it's not like one day you're just chilling. Next thing is like, oh, we gotta hire movers and we gotta call insurance and
right.
With Vegas Nerve, one of my bands, we released a video on Monday, and then we have these shows coming up. So I was like about to get in promo mode, and then all this shit happened where I put the video out and I've barely been able to do anything to promote it. So I'm just kind of like. So I got these shows coming up. We got the video. I got Bad Wolves shit going on. It's a whole mess. So,
well, were you home at the time of the fire? Did they make you evacuate or anything?
So I have a chiropractor that I go to a couple times a week, and it's walking distance. So I walked to that, and then on the way back, I had to run out errands. And I saw a fire alarm, but this building, the fire alarm goes off all the time, like false alarm. So I didn't think anything of it. And so I went and got my car, left, and I got a call from the building. So it is what it is, Life happens.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Well, you're not moving because of that. You're already moving, right? Is what you meant?
Yeah, but we're just moving to another apartment in the building. So it was easier than that. Otherwise, we'd have to stay in a hotel for like 3 weeks, and then they put all our stuff in storage. So it would just be it's just easier just to go to another apartment.
Yeah,
right. Well, speaking of Vegas Nerve, you live in LA and this band was started in Jersey. So like, how's that work out for you? Is it complicated or is it easy in this digital age?
It's complicated. It's that band really started, and even when I lived on the East Coast, it was still kind of difficult because I lived in North Jersey, and as well as my drummer. My guitar player lived in New York City, and the singer and bass player lived in Pennsylvania, but kind of in the middle of nowhere. So even when I lived there, it was still kind of a production for us to get together. Usually we would meet to rehearse. We'd meet in like Philadelphia, which was kind of the closest. Wow. So it'd be like an all-day affair to like meet up with the three of us, and then we go down there and kind of, we get, maybe 3 hours of rehearsal in. So it's in many ways, it's always been kind of long distance, but at least before I could just get in a car, and even if it's going to be an all-day thing, we could get together, we'll go, work on stuff with the acoustics, work on some stuff. So now it's just, you add that extra layer of kind of band bureaucracy where it's like just to make little decisions, it's just things, it's more difficult. And I think it's also, sometimes it's harder to get, because a lot of times bands, and I think just projects in general, rely on enthusiasm, and sometimes when you have that distance, you're not around each other all the time, it's harder to be enthusiastic. So I have to constantly kind of pump everyone up and get, even myself sometimes, like, the things have kind of been cold with the band because I've been busy and our guys have been busy with their other projects, and now we're trying to like restart the engine, and it takes a lot of kind of mental and emotional energy to get people excited about something when it's been quiet, especially when you're not already like this established act with all these fans.
Well, how do you prepare for shows like that? Are you going to like fly out there ahead of time to rehearse?
Yeah, but here's the thing about this band. It's, probably the best chemistry I've ever experienced with any band, where the first time we ever rehearsed was all the 5 members, because we kind of found each guy kind of one at a time. So it was just me and the singer, and then it was me and the singer and the drummer, and then so when we finally got the 5 people, it was like I was like, we could play a show tomorrow, and then when we did our first little tour out here in January after we released the EP, we rehearsed for 2 days, and it's like the first show. I mean, there were like no mistakes. Like it's pretty crazy how tight this band is, and it's and it is more like on the rock side of things, but it is intricate and there's a lot of details. But the thing is, like, my drummer is a pro drummer. Like, he's like one of those guys you call and he shows up and he nails the gig. My guitar player is a pro guitar player. Like, these guys are high level musicians. We have people of that caliber. They prepare and everyone does the work so that when it's time to do the gig, we're coming out there to do some shows on the East Coast. We're gonna rehearse one day and we're gonna go because it's just the band is at the level, and now we know we can do it. Before we've only done one live show, so it was kind of like, all right, are we gonna be good? Is the band gonna suck? You have no idea, and you just kind of go out there and do it. And then our singer Robbie, who probably has the least amount of live experience, just nailed it. The guy just has a great voice. His pitch is incredible, and he's a really interesting performer. So I have no worries. Thankfully, we can do that.
Well, you talk about the chemistry. I mean, did you contact these guys hoping and thinking that they had what it took, or did you just kind of hope, man, I hope this goes good, and you just kind of got lucky?
No, I mean, everyone essentially proved themselves. So the singer, I found him through a mutual friend and saw his YouTube videos where he did cover songs and a couple originals, and I was just like, this dude's voice is incredible. So we stayed in touch, and then I was working on another project, and that fell apart. I had all this leftover material, and I sent it to him, and he started recording on it. And so we kind of did that for a while, working on songs, and then we were like, should we like record this and make a record? And I was like, nah, man, I think we should put a band together and like make it like a real thing instead of just like 2 guys making a project. So we kind of, I was teaching at School of Rock, music school in New Jersey, and the guy that got me the job was our soon-to-be drummer. We tried out another drummer, and then he was the second guy we tried out. And it was just like totally clicked, personalities clicked, great guy, liked the music. And then our current bass player is our singer's best friend. And he went to music school, just brilliant guy all around. And he tried out on guitar at first and just totally didn't click. And we asked him if he'd be interested in playing bass, and he said he was, and he just nailed it. Same thing, even though he doesn't have a lot of background as like a professional in terms of playing with other bands, he's just someone who is extremely skilled and takes it really seriously. So you work on stuff, and he shows up, and he has such a musical ear, and he's also very talented production wise, and like knows a lot of, like, he does a lot of almost all the electronic sounding stuff on the record. He did all that stuff, like with all the intros to the record. And then our guitar player, we actually did kind of a wide search. Like that's when we went public with the band, and we put out like a sampler of like 3 or 4 little samples of music. And I mean, we got probably 50, 100 people submit. And then we held auditions in New Jersey, and that's how we found our guitar player, who I knew I was friends with him before, but he's in another band called Mother, like a straightforward kind of blues rock band. But he really liked what we did, and it's just that thing, man. You get someone in the room, and he just does certain things, and that the hair goes up on your arm, and that it vibes. Yeah. And we had some good people try out, and it kind of, it's not convenient for us that he's in another band that is pretty serious. That's his kind of main thing, and we know that, but the chemistry is so potent that we're just okay with that, because it's just, you can't just plug someone in and it's going to be the same. It's not going to be the same, Yeah. And everyone added, even though me and the singer pretty much had the music written before everyone joined, everyone added that thing that makes it a band and not just a recording, And, we recorded in a room together and like really wanted to capture that sound of the band,
I watched the new video, and it's got a lot of live footage. Was this something that you guys had input in how you wanted to put together? Did you put all that in the hands of the director?
So the director, Carlos Almonte, he was one of the guys that contributed to the Kickstarter. So I didn't know him. He was just a follower of mine. And that's what he does full time. He actually does a lot of editing for film and television. And he has directed some videos. And he reached out to me about, hey, would you guys be interested in doing a video? And he actually wanted to do it for another song. And he had a different concept. But we had this 6-show West Coast California run booked. And my idea, so essentially the song Promise Me the World, like blew up at Spotify, ended up getting on some playlists. It has like 250,000 listens on Spotify. So I was like, all right, there's some momentum behind this song. It's the kind of the heaviest, kind of rockinest track on the album. And I think that, has a certain appeal to, certain aspects of the kind of hard rock and metal community. So I was like, you know what, we're doing these shows. Let's just do a guerrilla style, just come out, shoot some shows, and just do like a live energy style video. So he just came out and he shot, I think 5 out of the 6 shows with him. I think he had one other person maybe to get some more coverage on 2 other shows. But that was the idea. But he took kind of my like rinky-dink DIY idea and turned it into a really compelling visual music video. I'm not going to tell you what we spent, but he hooked us up. Like we did not spend a buttload, and he did a very lot with a very little. It kind of tells you how talented he is.
Well, it's been, when you started Vegas Nerve, it's been probably 20 years since you had really started a band from the ground up. So yeah. Was it a daunting thing after having already been in a successful band, or how did you look at it?
Well, I think there's a lot of other challenges. In addition to Vegas Nerve, I was also starting this cover band called Rebel Noise Group, which was previously called Paradise City. So that was kind of like those 2 situations arose around the same time. And I'm, like you said, the last time I started a band, I was in high school. And it's like back then, you don't even really start it. You kind of just like stumble into people and then start playing with them. And then you find out about another guy and that person. There's very little kind of thought or big planning, So despite all my experience in the music industry, I hadn't put a band together. And I think the main difference is when you're 32 years old as opposed to 22 years old, the people that you're going to be talking to, they're just at a different stage in their life. So finding musicians that can, gig and have free time and they can rehearse, it's just, you're looking for certain types of people, and it's not easier, especially depending on where you are. So, I mean, with Vegas Nerve, I'm the oldest guy in the band, pretty by far, by like 4 or 5 years. So it's, for me, it was just like, I don't know how to do this stuff. So you just go and you figure it out,
Yeah.
I mean, and the truth is, it's a different world. We have different ways of communicating with people. We have different ways of, like with the guitar player search, I made, put the little sample on a SoundCloud, wrote out, did a little write-up, sent it in a bunch of metal websites, picked it up, and it kind of spread on its own. And that's how things go now, and it's just a completely different methodology. But yeah, man, I'm it's one thing being in a band that's established and has a solid lineup, and you're trying to figure out all the things that get you to a place of success. But starting from the ground up, and it's humbling, but it was fun. It's kind of just like doing it, not doing it for money, not doing it to be important. It was really just because we kind of believed in what we were doing musically, and just as a collection of human beings, it was just a really great group of people to be around.
Well, where do you look for this to go after you guys play shows? Because it'll be about a year since you put out the EP. Are you going to look to do more music into 2018?
Yeah, we're working on new stuff right now. It's just been kind of slow going. Ravi, our singer, and Aiden, our bass player, they have another project called Cosm, and they just released an EP that they've been working on for a while. And then Mo, our drummer, tours with this famous keyboard player named John Ginty Jr., who plays with like the Dixie Chicks, and he's like kind of known in like these kind of jazz circles, and kind of and then our guitar player said he's in the band Mother, which has picked up new management. So everyone's been really busy. So we've been kind of working on music piecemeal here and there, and then now with me, with Bad Wolves, my other band, that band is about to get signed and get really busy. So more likely what's going to happen is, we're going to do these shows, we put out this video, and then while I'm busy, we're kind of just going to start working on material to try and put enough material together to make a full-length record. So hopefully by the time Bad Wolves is done, then we can kind of focus on that. But with this band, it's been very much, we're never looking too far past our own nose. It's really just about meeting these kind of very simple, small goals that are, if we were all in the same place, playing a couple shows wouldn't be a big goal. But for a band where everyone's spread out, it does take a lot of effort to kind of make these things happen. So we'll see. It's very much my goal really was just to put out a record and do some shows. That was it. So there was some label interest, but no one was really ready to bite because before we put the record out, we weren't a live band. We weren't really playing. People saw that as long distance. They don't really take it seriously if you're not out there and show. So that's part of the reason why we did a live video, because so that people in the industry could see, no, they're a real band. We're not just a recording. We're not just a computer band,
Well, that was kind of the next kind of place we wanted to go, was Bad Wolves. Talk about how that came out and came about and what's going on with that.
So I moved, it's really interesting because I moved to Los Angeles in the summer of 2014, and my car broke down twice. The transmission. I bought this used car, and I got stranded in Denver, Colorado, and I was trying to figure out how to get to LA. And Devil Driver ended up giving me a ride on their tour bus. They were on tour with Whitechapel, and they were going in that direction. So I hit them up, and so it's like kind of weird because that's very much tied to like me getting to LA and then being an LA based band. And not too long after that, John Boecklin quit Devil Driver. Mm-hmm. You know, and he pretty much started working on the music that at first the band was called Eye of Tongues, but with Devil Drivers at the time guitar tech Max Karen, and so they were working on material, and I was kind of just on the outside looking in, just kind of hearing all the demos, and it was crazy. Like, you know, Max, like, so a lot of people don't know who this guy is. He actually plays in Once Human, the band with Logan Mader. Oh, yeah. But, you know, just a brilliant guy. Like, I think he's in the future, as things go on, he's going to become very, very well known. But he and John have been working on this music for 3 years, pretty much since I moved to LA. And, you know, there's always, you know, they had different singer ideas and it kind of went in all these directions. And things pretty much started to come together when Tommy Vext started singing on it, because they simplified the structures. You know, because the music at first was very technical, very proggy, very kind of that prog gent kind of world, like very much focused on instrumentation. And with Tommy brought in, we kind of found the focus of the band to be a little more straightforward, a little more focused on the vocals and the melody and the grooves. And you know, I was touring with a band called Metal, with the famous YouTube drummer Metal Cohen. We went out with Queensryche a little over a year ago, like a year and a half ago, and that band lost its singer, and I just had free time. So I was like, you know, John asked me if I wanted to play with the band, and I didn't have anything going on, and I really loved the stuff I was hearing. I really thought, from a metal standpoint, it was something that was fresh and ahead of the curve. So I didn't write any of the Battle stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, I kind of came on as it was going, and Chris, our other guitar player, had been playing with them, even though he wasn't part of the writing process either. So it was this thing where it was just, because Max was busy with Once Human, so he wasn't going to be like a regular member of the band, but he was going to be kind of like a writing member, like kind of like behind the scenes. So essentially it was like me and John working on stuff. Then we got Chris in, and then you know, so there was the three of us. Then we started auditioning bass players, and we couldn't find bass players for a while. So it was this really slow process. But actually, it's really funny is the way our bass player got in the band, which is Kyle Conkeal, who's in Vimic. We asked him to be in the band a while before, but he couldn't do it. And the day we were shooting our music video, he called me up just to shoot the shit. And he's like, yeah, if you know anything going on, man, I'm just kind of, you know, not what's happening with Vimic right now. I'm like, we still need a bass player. So he came down there that day and got in the music video and took a band photo, you know, and that's how he ended up in the band before he ever even played with the actual band. So then we got him in, and then, you know, Tommy kind of, you know, then we finally got together, and then that video dropped, and then kind of like it's been, you know, nonstop since then. I mean, it's you know, bunch of label offers, management, tour ideas, you know, and then the videos like killing it on YouTube. Like we're doing, you know, 5,000-10,000 views a day. Nice. So that's, you know, no label, we're not spending any money on advertising. It's very much a natural thing. So it's that band. It's more, I'm just going with the flow, you know. And I don't run the band. I'm not the lead guy. I'm kind of like a peripheral character trying to interpret what's on the record and really bring a great live show and bring professionalism. And obviously my name being part of it has helped the notoriety out of the gate, because there is a lot of guys in the band that have a lot of experience and have a name. So it's interesting, man, but it's cool. I'm really excited to actually see what happens, but there's a lot going on that I can't mention as of yet. But I will say that the momentum there's probably more momentum and heat on this than maybe even, God forbid, you know. So there's a lot of opportunities for this band, and I think it's it's gonna be cool when the record's done, because I think it's really gonna stand out from what's, because I think you have that whole gent kind of that scene, which is really cool, but this band takes an angle on that I think is actually much more palatable to like your average metalhead, or even like someone who's into more rock. Like I don't know, it's a different spin on it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think obviously a lot of diehard metal fans will come and check this out because of who's in the band. But do you think with Tommy getting that fill-in spot with Five Finger Death Punch that's going to help bring in more of those mainstream rock fans?
Yeah,
check you guys out?
He's, his kind of profile and his celebrity is growing from this in really kind of exponential ways. It'll definitely be a tremendous launching pad for this, and because of that connection, there's a good chance we're going to be doing a lot of touring with Five Finger Death Punch. So that connection is really strong, and not for nothing. That is, I know it's one of those bands a lot of elitists try and shit on and hate on, but in terms of success, it's either, between them, Avenged, Volbeat, that's like the gold standard of where we all are trying to get to, as far as success and spreading the word there, so it's like, the way I look at it is, the Metallica Black Album sold like 20 million copies in America. So those are 20 million. Like, you tell me that's the only heavy band they like? Yeah. It's like, no, those are potential heavy music fans out there, but they're not. I feel like they're not being catered to, and you have so many bands in the underground that kind of refuse to reach out. It's like either, and there's a divide. It's the heaviest and craziest and most extreme thing that is only specifically trying to get these particular small subset of fans, or it's straight up syrupy, poppy radio rock that is going over here, and there's nothing. And to me, that's why a band like Five Finger or Volbeat cuts through, because it covers both angles. It's heavy, but it's also catchy. It's like that, and I'm into that. I like that blend of being unapologetically heavy, but not forgetting to have a hook, or not forgetting to have something that even a regular person can grasp onto. I think you can achieve that. That's what Pantera did. That's what Tool did. That's what Rage Against the Machine did, And bands just, I don't know if it's a lack of ambition or imagination, but it's definitely what I like personally.
Well, if it brings new fans into rock and metal in general, I'm for it. I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's why bands like Baby Metal are having that, because they're whether you like them or hate them, they're definitely doing something different.
Yeah, they sure are.
And they're getting opportunities a lot of other metal bands just wouldn't get, because of how out of the box it is, and how just it's like a circus. At the end of the day, I say with the kind of gimmicky things, it'll only take you so far. It's like, how good are the songs? Another band, Ghost, I think you can throw in there. Where they have this cool image and stuff, but I went to the show. People were singing along to every word, like 2,000 people. I mean, they got songs, I don't really get wrapped up into, like, I don't know. There's a very much a kind of a hater kind of paradigm and philosophy that people kind of really tie their identity to, and I'm complete polar opposite. Even if I don't personally like something, there's a good chance that it's, if it's widening the net of, and I think too, in the other realm is looking at bands like Bring Me the Horizon and, Motionless in White and, All Time Low and, who are actually getting out to these young kids, that's who we need, because I think on the metal side, we're very much wrapped up in historical references. It's Black Sabbath, it's Motorhead, it's Judas Priest, and it's like, if we're only focused on the past, we're going to be a dying form. We have to find ways to reach young people, so.
Yeah, we got to get them picking up guitars, man.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little resurgence with Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and there was a big uptick in instrument sales, but that was kind of a little bubble, and now that's kind of decreased. And the truth is, there is, when it comes to a lot of the mainstream, there's not a lot of guitars. It's becoming less guitar based. It's becoming less real instrument based. Mm-hmm. And let's not get too scared, but it's definitely concerning. It's I don't want to live in a world that's all computer music. Personally.
No kidding.
I want the humanity of musical expression to still be there. Especially, it's one thing for me to be great at guitar, you to be great at drums, you to be great at singing. It's another thing for actually us to work together as a unit. I hope that never gets lost.
Yeah. No.
Well, you kind of touched on something else I wanted to bring up. I remember a year or two ago you wrote an article about that we need to stop the Civil War in metal.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of ties into what we were just talking about. Do you think that's something that could ever really happen? Because a lot of people are just kind of stuck in their ways of, I hate this, I love this.
Well, it's funny. I think you can find a through line with that and as a media thing, right? So that same type of media tactic is predominant in music, but it's more so predominant in politics and sports, right? So if I'm a sports writer or I'm a politics writer, the way I get the most attention is by saying the craziest and usually divisive thing, right? Yeah. So that's because the thing is, the way you make money now is by clicks, by advertising. So attention has become the most valuable commodity, right? How many eyeballs you have on you. And the thing is, a moderating, well-balanced, kind of pleasant and respectful article no one gives a shit. But if you say something crazy, if it's like, the head of the article is, Chad Kroger should eat a dick, on spinmagazine.com, then that's going to get, so that's what I kind of noticed is I think, the commentary of that article was that the underground blogosphere for metal, I get it. Like, you need to have your villain in your world, right? Because what they're doing is they're in a niche market, right? There's no blog for the Five Finger Death Punches and the Skillets and the Shinedown. Like, the people that are buying those records are just regular Joes. They're not they're not the connoisseurs in the same way that underground, more kind of artistically based music and culture is ingrained in. But it's like this thing of, well, we're we know what good music is, and we're very much, those are my friends. Like, so I've had this debate with them, and I did. I got on the Metal Sucks show and had a debate with Ben from Metal Sucks and talked about this, where the big difference between me and them is I'm in a band and I play with bands and I know these guys. I can't, they don't have that relationship, so they can shit on David Draymond. They can shit on Dave Mustaine because they don't have to go and look these people in the eye.
Yeah.
But I do. And so I'm in a different place, and I totally get that. But The general point is that but everyone's looking at their best interest, which is they run a website, they're trying to maximize the reach and the profits, and also maintain their identity, right? Because if your metal sucks and your brand is, well, we think this is the standard of music that is good, we also have to call it out when we think it's not good. Because if you just say everything's good, then how much credibility do you have?
Yeah.
So I get that angle of it. Like, I think that's fine. But at the same time, if the whole point is we're gonna shit on anyone who's big, we're gonna shit on anyone who's selling records, it's like, well, you should kind of just shit. Like, what's the point of getting successful if like you're just gonna hate on everyone? And I think there's that thing. It's almost like the more popular you are, it's almost proof that you suck or that you sold out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's like an invalidator of your credibility. But then again, to me, that kind of dilutes what credibility is. It's like, credible to who? To you? Because I don't know how do we, because some people say, well, I know my shit is good because we sold this many records. That doesn't necessarily work either. It's like McDonald's sells the most hamburgers. Do they make the best hamburger?
No.
Probably not, right? Yeah. So like these metrics about what is good, what is not good, but I think everyone's kind of looking at their own corner, but I'm looking at the big picture. It's like, how does metal and heavy music stay relevant in pop culture? And I think right now there is not much relevance unless you're Metallica. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. Other than that, we're kind of on the outside looking in, and I don't want to be disrespected. I don't want to be looked at as a second-class citizen.
Well, I mean, that's something me and him have talked about before, too. You mentioned Metallica selling albums earlier, and we just went to the show the other day at Cowboy Stadium, and there's like 60, 70,000 people there. I went and saw Guns N' Roses last year, the same amount of people. Like, who are these people that aren't going to other shows,
Well, I think in many ways you have to understand that Metallica and Guns N' Roses were also doing 70,000 people back in 1992.
Yeah.
They're, and I think a lot of those people, they're not, listen, there's going to be people like me and maybe like you guys who, we're going to go to 4, 5, 6, 7 shows a month. But some people, they're only going to go to 2 or 3 shows a year. They're going to go to Mayhem Fest. They're going to go see Slayer. They're going to go see Metallica. They're going to go see 5-3. Like, it's kind of, it is what it is, and not everyone's going to get to that level because those are more like what we call like a casual fan. Not everyone is obsessed with metal. Like, some people just have, so it's there really only is so much bandwidth for that. But if you look at the broad numbers, I mean, they sold more concert tickets last year in America than at any time in history. So people want to go to live shows. People want live experiences. Because there's less revenue on the record sales side of things, there are more bands on tour. Mm-hmm. People are trying to kind of extrapolate more revenue from that source. So there is an issue there where you kind of have the lower middle class fighting over crumbs, where the Lady Gagas and the Taylor Swifts and Bruno Mars and the Metallicas, they're just fine. Their shows are always going to be sold out. There's no problem there. So it's I don't know how to get there, but I think when something does cut through and it's interesting and it's new and it's heavy, but it has, because to me, like, I look at a band like Ghost. Are they a rock band? Are they a metal band?
Yeah.
I don't know, but they're fucking dark. All the lyrics are about Satan. They're it's
catchy as hell.
Yeah, but it people will look at that band's success who don't like them and try and discredit it, right? And say, oh, they have a gimmick, or oh, well, it's like, instead of saying no, they actually are doing, like, it's kind of hard to bullshit metalheads. I think, because you look at a band when they put out a shit record, it doesn't do well.
Yeah,
people don't like it. They don't. Very few bands are kind of, immune from that. And then when you do make a good record, they come back. You know, it's like look at those couple Megadeth records, like 13, and like people didn't give a shit. The shows weren't. Like, then they put out the new record, Dystopia. All of a sudden, record sales are way up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, ticket sales. Like that's at the end of the day. Like you kind of have to give people credit that when something cuts through, like a Volbeat or a Ghost, they're doing something interesting. They're providing something that is not there in the marketplace.
Well, changing the subject a little, your collaboration that you did with Bodycount, This Is Why We Ride. Like, how did that come about? Is this something you guys had talked about working together before, or did they just approach you?
So I was approached by the A&R guy at Century Media, Mike Gitter, and with that particular album, they were actually taking submissions from a handful of prominent players and people that could write. So like Billy from Biohazard wrote a track, and Clint from Seven Dust, I believe, wrote a song. So they were kind of going for like heavy hitters, people that knew they could contribute. And so I got a call. I have a relationship with Mike, and I pretty much, I didn't know if they would take my song, so I spent like a week, and I listened to the latest album, and I listened to the original album, and I was like, let me try and find something kind of in between this, and that's kind of what I came up with. And they, they cut out, like, I kind of had this like thrashy, almost like upbeat, like terror, like something like real kind of hardcore bridge, which they ended up not using, but the bulk of the song is from pretty much my original idea. So I didn't hear it or know that I even made the record till I got like an email that had the song, and it was like, oh shit, Ice-T singing on my wrist. I couldn't believe it, man. But yeah, so it was just me. It was kind of like, all right, here's a shot, work on it, send it out, and see what happens. And I ended up being there. So it's pretty amazing, man. It's, I hope more opportunities like that present themselves. I love that challenge of kind of writing in someone else's voice, even though at the end of the day you're going to sound like you, but it is a cool thing. Especially, I mean, that's legendary, man.
Yeah. Do you kind of seek that stuff out, writing for other people, or it just kind of happened that way?
It depends on, sometimes it's back and forth, because Jamie Josta, I wrote, a song for his solo band, Josta, and some of that, I think he reached out to me, but then sometimes I'm like, hey man, you need any, so sometimes it goes both ways, but I think ultimately it's, you have to know there's an opportunity to even reach out about something. You don't always know when so I think 9 times out of 10, someone's going to hit you up if you have that kind of a reputation and people think you can contribute. But I hope more things like that come past my way.
Yeah.
Would you like the challenge of writing something outside of heavy metal or hard rock, like something pop or anything like that?
I don't really have a lot of, because the thing with pop, like, you really need to have like studio chops, and really kind of understand, especially now because it's mostly a lot of that stuff is all kind of in the box with plugins and drum programs and synths, and it's not as much live instrumentation, and it's when I started, I was just a metal guitar player. Then around 2010, I started playing with this cover band that was doing rock stuff. So we're doing like Living Colour and No Doubt, Led Zeppelin and Incubus. And even that was a big challenge to kind of transition to becoming even just a rock metal guitar, kind of add those rock chops. And that's been the whole thing. So, I'm kind of working backwards. Like I think my next thing I want to tackle is more like funk style rhythm guitar, like kind of like the new, what's that record, like the last like Daft Punk record.
Yeah,
it was like Niles Rodgers played all the guitar there. Like, I'm really into that kind of guitar playing. So I think I've tried to do some stuff like that, like kind of playing with some friends doing it, and it's a big challenge for me. So that's like, I'm kind of adding one piece at a time, because I'm not classically trained. I didn't go to music school, so I don't have a jazz background. I don't have a classical background. I learned through learning other metal songs. And then when I started teaching guitar more full time around 2012, 2013, that's when I went and did more background learning theory, and because I had to teach it, so I had to kind of understand it, you know. So I have some very basic and rudimentary theoretical knowledge, which is helpful. It's actually, you know, it's kind of annoying that I was learning that stuff, you know, when I was in my 30s, because it definitely is super helpful when, you know, you're dealing with composition and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, you did that tour filling in for Darkest Hour. Is that something that if a band like that asks you to join, would you be willing to do that, or are you focused on what you're doing with Vegas Nerve and Bad Wolves?
I mean, it would really have to be an exceptional opportunity, to be honest. You know, I think it's all about, because the thing is, when you're joining an established band, you kind of know what it is, you know. But I think I like the idea, especially something like Bad Wolves. You look at it, and you're like, wow, this has kind of a really high ceiling. There's no telling what it could do. Same with Vegas Nerve. That's why I kind of like the idea of being in a rock band where you can kind of do anything, that you can kind of age with it. You know, whereas like, you know, joining like a band like Darkest Hour, which is an amazing band, you know, that's their thing, and you're kind of always joining someone else's thing. You know, it'd have to be a very, very unique opportunity for something like that to happen. So never say never, but right now I'm really committed to the projects I'm working on now. And even with this, like with Vegas Nerve, more likely, like I said, it's probably going to go on the back burner while, you know, we kind of go through this Bad Wolves cycle, you know, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I listened to your fan questions episode of your X-Men podcast, and I really like how you politely kind of called the guy out, you know, asking the cliche questions like influence and stuff. I appreciate that. We try to stay away from those questions, and you know, how do you kind of handle those, and how do you try to, in your own podcast, how do you try to keep it fresh and not ask the same old stuff?
Well, I mean, the thing that's cool about my show makes it a little bit different than many of the other music podcasts out there, is I have a very particular theme and arc that I'm going for. So there are certain, you know, I have an individual on my show. It's where were you? Where'd you go next? Where are you now? And then filling those gaps about not only how you got to those places, but how you felt about it. Like the thing that's really important to me, it's kind of like this emotional core of, all right, this happened, but what were you going through internally? You know, what did that, and I think a lot of people, they think, you know, like a band ends, right? Like, let's say that was like a movie, right? Like you watch the movie Rockstar, and it's like the end of the movie, and he like walks off the stage, and, you know, he's got his guitar on his back, and he's like, you know, hitchhiking. And it's like, but that ain't the end of his story, man. That dude had to go back to Ohio and go work at Waffle House or some shit, you know? Like, he had to go, you know, cut lawns but to me, that's the interesting thing. It's not, oh, I left this and I was just completely fine. You know, it's like, no, man, when you do something for a long time, especially if it has a certain amount of success and becomes part of your identity, and that changes, there's a lot of, you know, stuff, psychological stuff that is difficult, it's tough to deal with. Yeah. You know, that's what, you know, and, you know, that's what inspired me to do a lot of the writing I did about what I was going through. And I noticed how people really connected to that, is that honesty and like saying, hey, I'm going through a rough time. I'm 30 something years old and I don't know how to be an adult. I just got to, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to live, you know, but I'm not the only one that's happened to, you know, so that's really, you know, so I have an angle, and even though other people touch it, you know, and I'm, you know, when they'll talk to someone who just left the band, and they'll tell them their story, you know, but that's my particular angle, you know. And then every now and again, I'll have certain guests where we'll have a subject matter that isn't per se their personal X-Man story. Like I had Phil Labonte on, and we just did an all politics episode right before the election. Or I had writer on to talk about this new wave of American heavy metal article. He wrote Andrew Zalucky. So, and I kind of want to do a little more of that. Like, I think next week, me and my buddies are going to do just an all NBA to kind of wrap up the season, talk about, what's going on with that. So, kind of want to mix that up. But I'm such a fan of podcasts that it's really important to me to try and do something different. Because here's the truth: if I have the show and I feel like it's stale and I'm not bringing something to the marketplace that's not unique, I really don't see a reason why to do it. It's got to be something that people come to this and they get that thing that is only there.
Yeah.
Well, looking back on your time with God Forbid, what are your best memories? Is it the catalog you guys put together, or is it the touring?
Well, I mean, listen, I think with God Forbid, the catalog is, it's one of those things that every now and again, like, I'll hear a song. Like, it's kind of a weird thing when you haven't heard a song. When you're hearing a song, like, in the distance maybe or something, you're like, you're like, who is that? You're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And then you realize, oh, that's us, I think with God Forbid, I don't know if we ever made, like, that album that, like, changed the game or anything, but we were always a solid B+. I feel like I feel like there's no record sucks. Maybe outside of our first EP, every record for that moment in time, I think, was us really landing on the table and doing the best we could. And I think there's a lot there. And to me, the band, when it was really focused and our ambitions were set high and we had a lot of confidence, probably from that like 2004 to 2006 range. As a live band, I think we were as good as anybody.
Yeah.
And that the thing I'm really proud of was that, we did have the same 5 guys for 12 years. And there was a personality and there was it was a family environment, and that's the thing I probably missed the most, is just that, and that was like me. I had went into this kind of post breakup depression a little bit after that, just about, feeling displaced in terms of, I don't have that family unit. I don't have that thing, and that's hard. Some people, whether that's your actual family, you start a family, or whatever, you're on a sports team and those were my guys, or you're in the military and those are my guys, or whatever, just having that maybe it's a little different for men, maybe we kind of need that male camaraderie and the bonding and the all that stuff. I don't know, but it was there was definitely a special moment in time. And listen, the thing about it now is engaging in the world, and every other day I meet someone or I get a message just telling me how much the band meant to them. It's like, you made an impact, and I have no idea what that means, because people say, oh, you guys are really big, or you were famous. I don't know what that means tangibly, I don't know what I can do with that, but at least in those moments, those people who do care seem to really, really care. So that's something that kind of is the gift that keeps giving. It's something that I'm still experiencing now.
Yeah. Well, I saw you when you did one of those shows filling in for Mark Morton, and I know that Metallica is like one of your favorite bands.
They're my favorite band. They're not one. They're numero uno.
Hey, mine too. Do you have any cool stories, or just that had to be just such a trip?
There's a couple. There's a couple stories from that, man. I remember. So the first day of the tour, we're in Nashville, Tennessee, and I went through a breakup before that, and I was basically going through a nervous breakdown, kind of right before I had to do the biggest gig of my life, and so I'm just a mess, going up to this because I'm nervous about the actual show and having to play Lamb of God songs in front of 20,000 people, but I'm also just a wreck because I'm I just got broken up with. So it's first day of tour, I'm just stomach, can't eat anything, and I'm in the catering room and I see Kirk Hammett. I see Rob Trujillo. I'm like, oh my God. I'm just like, I'm freaking out, right? And then Lemmy is there that day. So if you guys have seen the Lemmy documentary, there's a performance at the end with him playing with Metallica.
Yeah.
That was that show.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So there's like a dressing room that says Lemmy on it. And I'm just like, I can't, there's a sushi chef at catering, right, who just make you your own sushi. I'm just like, I can't have, Jet Hetfield walks in the dressing room and he's like 6'4", and it's like, you want to salute him. It's like that's a general, I'm freaking out, right? And then we're getting ready to play, and the intro music is playing, and I'm just like, and I swear, like I said, most nervous I've ever been in my life, and they had that badass. It was the music from Wrath. They had that cool acoustic thing.
Yeah.
And right when we're getting ready to go out there, Chris Adler comes to me. He's like, "Hey man, don't worry about it. Just put on a good show." and literally in that moment, and then just walking out there, it just kind of, I was like, oh, this is what I do. Like, it's just a show. I've been doing this forever, and I just went out there and I did like he said, and I just rocked out, and just went for it. And then pretty much from then, I wasn't really nervous at all. Kind of went away, just being. But I mean, I think you're so jacked up for a moment like that. And the thing that's kind of crazy about that, because they play in the center of the arena, when you go out there, it's like a boxer, right? Like you go through the curtain, and then there's people all on the sides, and you're clapping. It's like that. So it's a completely different feeling when you normally enter a stage. It's more dramatic, And it's so that I think that's probably one of the coolest ones. It's kind of like, freaking out and realizing it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then it was awesome. Then I had a blast, But it's a teachable moment in that I think some things are so big you almost can't imagine doing it until you're doing it.
Yeah.
At least for me at that time, and that opened up a whole lot of possibilities. To say, hey, I can do this. And since then I filled in for other bands and done other things, and it's definitely once you have that moment of fear and you get through it, you realize you can pretty much do anything.
Awesome.
Definitely. Well, man, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Of course. Thanks for having me as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Any of my stuff, doccoyle.net. You can follow my stuff, and at Doc Coyle, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. All right, man. You guys be good. I like that Thunder, that OKC.
Oh yeah.
You think Westbrook's gonna win the MVP?
No.
He's gonna win it, right? No, I think he's gonna win.
I don't have much hope for the future. I'm scared he's gonna be gone. So
I have a dream in my heart is that one day Westbrook and Anthony Davis will end up on the same team. There's no reason why it should happen, but I just imagine that it'll just be the craziest thing. Like those just two freaks.
Right. Where do you think? You think Paul George is going to the Lakers?
I don't know. I feel like they have the upper hand, but it's because the thing is, remember, it's all about the Indiana has all the chips as far as where he'll end up now. Because the way they're concerned, they're like, all right, he's leaving the year, so they're probably going to trade him. What's the bet? What's the most they can get? And they can probably get the most from the Lakers because the Lakers are guaranteed to re-sign him. But if you're the Lakers, why are you going to give up a bunch of shit if you can just sign him?
That's true, yeah.
So, but if I'm them, it's like if I can get Kevin Love and he's signed till 2020, why not? Or do they want young dudes and picks? But if you're a team, if you can only rent them for a year, why are you going to give up picks?
Right.
Yeah, true.
Now, apparently they asked him for Klay Thompson. I heard.
Wow, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. But, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. But I think it's already interesting. Everyone's getting traded. I love it. I love all the trades.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Cool, you be good. You have a good night. And thanks again.
There you go, Doc Coyle of Vegas Nerve, Bad Wolves, formerly of God Forbid. Hopefully, futurely of God Forbid. I've used that word futurely again. I keep doing that.
Futurely. Hey, you know what? let's not go back on the past. Let's look to the future.
Hey, I just said hopefully futurely.
Well,
one day
you never know.
One day they do it.
But
cool.
I'm excited for his new stuff. You know,
me too.
And his new projects.
Me too.
Okay, good.
Be sure and check both those bands out. Check out the X-Man podcast. That's what you need to do.
It's definitely what you need to do.
Yeah. Be sure and check us out. SoundCloud.com/Thunder-Underground has all the previous episodes on there. We're also on YouTube at The Thunder Underground. You can hear us every Monday night on 102.7 WSNR. We stream there every Monday at 7 p.m. Central. 102.7 WSNR.com. And then we're also on, of course, Facebook and Twitter. But 132 previous episodes we've had on guys from Superjoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple guys from Superjoint. We had on Jimmy Bauer, who of course was in Down and I Hate God as well. Speaking of Down, we had on Kirk Winstein from Crowbar.
That's right.
Phil Anselmo was on his podcast for about 27 seconds.
I was about to say, when we interviewed Jimmy Bauer, a certain somebody made a tiny little guest spot.
Yeah.
Like a 15-second long. And who was that?
That's Phil.
Phil Anselmo.
I mean, look, I never die before. That is Pepper's hair.
Yeah,
Look,
so Pepper.
fucking Pepper dyes his hair. He dyes his hair. Applefield. That rules.
But, yeah, I mean, we've had guys from He Is Legend, Miss May I. We've had, Eddie Trunk. Eddie Trunk was on here.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Seven Dust, Avatar, Drowning Pool, Shinedown, Battlecross. We've had a bunch of guys from the 80s rock stuff like Warrant, Great White, Europe, Bullet Boys.
Trickster.
Yeah, Lillian Axe, Taiketo. Then we've had on guys from, man, I'm just drawing a blank.
Bruce Kulick.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons.
These guys were from a band called Kiss.
If you didn't know. So, yeah, we've had a few people on. Give it a listen. We've also had some great local guys. Screaming Red Mutiny, Severmind, Less Than Zero, Grind. We just had Grind on an episode.
Less Than Zero.
Did I say Less Than Zero?
Yeah.
Fuck me. Fuck me.
I'm leaving that on because that's awesome.
You're probably, Less Than Human. Jesus Christ. I'm not even that drunk yet. God, that's how you know I'm old.
Right? But yeah,
sorry, guys. I love you, Less Than Human.
They know you love them. TheThunderUnderground.com. Look us up. Follow us. There's tons of stuff to check out there. We've got stuff coming with two of the members of 3D in Your Face.
Yes.
They're making their return to the podcast. Two of the members from Grind.
Yes.
Making their return to the podcast. And then we've got an episode coming up with Fist of Rage that is a joint episode with Porch Talk.
That's going to be amazing.
So this is the first official Porch Talk Thunder Underground collaboration.
Joint, whatever you want to call it.
It's called Under the Porch.
Under the Porch. I
don't know. Sorry.
Hey,
that was
you know
just
what?
off the top of my head and that didn't work out.
That's fine. I'm going to stop talking because I already put my foot in my mouth once.
Thunder Porch. No, that's stupid too. I don't know. We'll figure out something.
Thunder Talk?
There you go.
Under Talk.
But yeah, the two of us with the two of them and all of Fist of Rage. So this has got craziness written all over it.
It does, and it's probably going to be the most drunken thing you've seen or heard this year. I can call it right now.
Right. Yeah, our episode of Fist of Rage last year was one of the funnier ones, in my opinion, that we've ever done. So you imagine the four of those with, Chris and Laura and us. It's just going to be a little manic, I think.
I'm going to have my Uber ready.
Right.
My Uber app. They're ready to go.
Right. All right. Be looking for that here in the next few weeks as well. Thanks for listening, and until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.